Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Hello friends, and welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. I'm telling you right now, the cannabis market is going into hyper growth mode. Let's check out the research. This is going to get you excited because look at the trend here. It's just up and up and up each year in states like California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, and others. This is 2018. What do you think 2019 is going to look like? What do you think 2020 is going to look like? You know, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. In states like California, where billions of dollars are being spent each and every year. Through 2025, the projections have it just going up and up and up for both medical and adult use cannabis sales. And if you think it's only young consumers, well, young consumers are using it, sure, millennials, Generation Xers, but not just them. In fact, in the state of California, the average consumer spending on cannabis has been increasing, yes. Baby boomers and Generation X in California spend the most each month. They're also buying the most cannabis by far. Isn't that interesting? But yeah, baby boomers. Sure, all the generations have seen increases in the spending on legalized cannabis. You might not know this, baby boomers and Generation X favor cannabis for its therapeutic properties. They use it to induce sleep, replace tobacco consumption, and as anxiety medication. Let's take a look at Nevada, another leading state. Last year, you could see the trend is going up. Over $50 million in sales of legalized and taxable marijuana sales. This year, it's just growing even bigger. And speaking of taxable, these states, and I project more and more states, are going to want to legalize for the tax revenues that are coming in. States that have already legalized, many of them like Washington, California, Colorado, Oregon, Nevada, have seen tens of millions or even hundreds of millions annually of revenues coming in that could be used for infrastructure, healthcare, building roads, things like that, education. States need the tax revenues badly. This is a great way for them to get it. So I believe that state by state, you're going to see more legalization and eventually federally. So how can you profit from this? Well, I've got an interview coming up in a few seconds. You're going to want to watch this whole thing because I have a cannabis expert coming on right now who's going to tell you how you can best profit from the American, North American, and global emerging and growing cannabis markets. Stick around. Here's a great interview. Hello and welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. I am so excited about the cannabis industry. My viewers and listeners already know this, that I'm bullish. I think it's just in its infancy and has so much more upside. 2018 was a super exciting year with the passage of the the Farm Bill, which legalized hemp in America. Of course, in October, you had Canada legalizing federally. I think America is next, and we're going to talk about how we can capitalize on this huge phenomenon that's spreading across America. And so my guest today is Mr. Corey Mangold, a serial entrepreneur who has founded multiple successful ventures and happens to be a cannabis expert as well. That's certainly helpful. So Mr. Mangold, thank you for coming on to Looking at the Markets, sir.
Thank you for having me, David. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey, you know this already. Wall Street has really begun to cover this industry in earnest. Bank of America is bullish at this point. In fact, they even financed some key deals in the cannabis space in America. There are numerous billion-dollar businesses, private and public, going on, and it seems to me that California is leading the way in this market, at least in America. Now, what makes you personally excited about this industry?
Yeah, it's a interesting industry that I never thought I would be involved in, but I am absolutely so fortunate and blessed to be involved in it. And I think what makes me most excited is that we're really, scratching the surface right now. I compare cannabis to the ocean. We know very little about it. It's a very complex plant, and as the laws change and we're able to do more medical studies and clinical studies and trials, I think it's going to completely open the floodgates to the possibilities of not only product development but application, and how this amazing plant can help people around the world. And the product development side is something that interests me very much, and the global markets as well. So I think it's very exciting time. We're on the cutting edge of the fourth industrial revolution, in my opinion.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, the new industrial revolution happening right now. It's historic. Not everybody's gotten involved yet, although that leaves opportunities for people who have not used hemp products or CBD, THC products. What are some of the innovations you're seeing now? And could you tell us what is the consumer? What's the typical demographic of a hemp or CBD, THC consumer in America nowadays?
That's a great question. The demographics, I think, would surprise most non-cannabis users, especially those that still carry around the stigma. The average age, for example, in Orange County in a dispensary is 52 years old. We've seen average ages anywhere from 48 to 57 years old, depending on the state and the market. It's not your 21-year-old stoner walking into the dispensary buying all the product. If you stand in a dispensary and watch people come in, I'd say probably 90% of the people I see are purchasing cannabis for some sort of medical benefit. And a lot of people are coming in that haven't used cannabis before. The fastest growing product segments are women and baby boomers, both of which the majority of those users are new cannabis users. They're not ones that even smoked 10 years ago. There are a lot of people that have never used cannabis, but they're learning about it. They're hearing about it from friends and family. And we're in a very health conscious market right now. People are becoming more concerned and aware of their own personal health, which is going to drive the sales of alcohol down. Well, we've already seen alcohol sales plummeting up to 30% in certain states, and that's going to continue as people understand that there is a product, there is a plant, there is cannabis out there that can offer great relief, great medical benefits, and even just taking the edge off when you get home from a long day. And I think that as more people shift away from the 3 martinis a night or the glass or 2 of wine and try cannabis, they're going to see that they feel a lot better. Their head isn't as cloudy as it is with alcohol, and that they wake up the next morning feeling refreshed and able to hit the gym at 5 in the morning. So I think there's a huge shift that's happening right now. It's going to continue to grow, and more new cannabis users are coming into the market, which is going to mean that the importance of future development and product development is very, very important.
I agree 100%. Not only the alcohol companies, but cigarette companies are in trouble, to be honest, in America, as far as sales and revenues go. And that's why there are companies like Altria and Molson Coors and Constellation Brands getting into the CBD, THC, hemp, cannabis space. They either have to join or get left behind. Huge deals are being made. Smaller companies in the cannabis space are the target of acquisitions and large capital infusions from these big mega corporations, which I believe makes investing in smaller cannabis companies a really great investment right now if you pick the right companies to focus on. So let's look toward the future. What do you believe is next for this industry? What's it morphing into, and where's the money going to be made?
Global market. I mean, globalization and commoditization are 2 things that are occurring quite rapidly. We're seeing everyone from Colombia coming on board and building out full government-sponsored programs for cultivation. In California, we lost our fresh cut flower, orchids. Funny enough, Orchid Essentials here, but orchids and everything from carnations to roses, all the fresh flowers moved to Colombia in the early 2000s and late 90s. And now that Colombia is going to start cultivating cannabis, they're going to be able to do it at a more cost-effective rate and at larger scale than probably most countries are. Mexico is coming on board with massive scale manufacturing operations and oil production. All these countries are starting to really focus on what they're good at and bring that into the cannabis industry. And they have the benefit of making quick legislative changes at the federal level, which, America has been the one country that has suffered greatly from its inability to move quick and be on the playing field when this game starts. And the game starting right now in the U.S. is not on the playing field. And companies like Orchid Ventures and the Cannabis and all the other great companies out there, I think we're all looking at the global market. I think we're all focused keenly right now on Latin America and Europe and Africa. Asia is making a lot of changes as well. So I think those that are quickest to act on the globalization, whether it's through licensing their products or being involved in the manufacturing and cultivation side of it, the global market is where the big dollars are. That is where the future is. And for anyone to think that we're going to do it all on our own, I think it's a very naive thought process. And right now Orchid Ventures wants to be a part of the Boston Red Sox. So we're looking for great other companies to partner with to form this dynasty baseball team, if you will. And we want to do it at a global level. We don't just want to focus on Canada and the US. We want to look at the whole world and how do we play a part in that.
I like the baseball analogy. And I wanted to talk about your company, which is Orchid Ventures, Inc. And if people want a great way to get international exposure to the burgeoning cannabis market, I definitely recommend it. If they want to check out the stock, it is on the CSE, Canadian Securities Exchange. The ticker symbol is ORCD. I'll put that on the screen. And it's if people want to check out this company, it's orchidessentials.com. I'll put that link in the description below this video so you can check it out easily. So, Court, I wanted to talk about your company because I think it's a great way to get exposure to this global phenomenon. It's not just North America. The mainstream media tends to over-focus, I think, on Canada and the United States. But really, you need that international exposure if you want to get in on the ground floor. So let's talk about your company. Could you tell us about the experience of putting together this company, Orchid Ventures, and your experience with it?
Yeah, it was a fun project that my partner Renee Suarez and I started back in July of 2016. Through personal use, I was using vaporizer products as a father of 5 and somebody that can't really use cannabis in the home. Obviously, the smell, stuff like that, just not really suitable when there's 3 teenagers run through the house. So I began using vaporizer products to help me with anxiety and some other issues and noticed some good relief. The problem was the user experience with the vaporizer products, which I needed to use for discretion purposes, just wasn't a good experience. The products weren't at the level that I expect from a consumer good. And so my partner, Renee Suarez, had many years experience in the nicotine vape space and knew all the hardware manufacturers in Shenzhen. And we were able to partner with one and begin developing a proprietary product that had a better user experience than anything we had seen before. Once we were done with engineering, we put it through some focus groups, and it was insane. I've been in marketing and building brands for 20 years, and I've never seen a product test so well. So we knew we had something. We then raised a little bit of money through family and friends and launched on the market in California or in Oregon in August of 2017, and then subsequently launched here in California just a few weeks later. And the growth was insane. We could not make the product fast enough, and our biggest weakness was capital. And it's a very difficult industry to raise capital in. And if you don't have $10-20 million sitting in the bank, and the demand for your product is exceeding those thresholds, it makes it very difficult to scale. So we actually pulled out of the California market for about 8 months. We just relaunched in the California market in January, just prior to publicly listing. And now we have capital. Now we have the things necessary to go out and grow and scale and keep up with the demand and begin focusing our efforts on moving into other states and not just trying to struggle to fulfill the orders and the product demand that we already had. So it's been a great launch. We've seen the brand come out as a premier and premium product at a higher price point, and it's sold unbelievably well. The brand loyalty is unlike anything I've seen in the space. Yeah. And now we're able to really focus on developing other products. We have the brand, we have the foundation, we have the executive team and the board of directors. Now it's all about expansion, getting more capital in and really scaling the business across the country and internationally.
And that's exactly what you're doing. I know that Orchid's brands, THC and CBD product lines, are sold in over 250 dispensaries across California and Oregon. And am I right? Tell me, are there expansion plans in the works? I've heard that Nevada might be next, New York, Puerto Rico, Canada, around the world. What's that going to look like?
Yeah, we're working on a lot of other plans with geographic expansion right now. So we'll be making announcements as soon as those things are, hammered in stone. Right now, the focus is still on the California expansion. We just launched in January. From January until now, we're in about 80 accounts. A lot of those are, very big accounts. It's a lot different marketplace than Oregon, where you have too many license holders and the volumes at the store level are much lower. In California, the volumes are very high, even though there's still thousands of illegal dispensaries out there. So we haven't recognized the true potential of the legal market in California because the black market is so prevalent and still growing. But our expansion in California is quite rapidly. We are, expanding at, close to 5 to 8 new retailers every week. So we're going to keep that expansion going up until our total store count hits, hopefully over 500. And then subsequently and concurrently, we will be working on our expansion plans into other states and even other countries. So a lot of expansion. And right now it's just, staying on our skis and not getting in front of them and really focusing on scalable growth and not going too quickly to where we trip over our own shoelaces.
Right. And I can't imagine that'll happen. I mean, the expansion is huge and it is scalable. I've heard that within 3 months of the initial launch, Orchid was on shelves in 60 retail locations, some very famous, well-known brands and well-known names there. So it's just big and getting bigger. And yet I look at the share price of the stock, which again on the CSE Canadian Exchange is ticker symbol ORCD. I see that the share price really is not reflective of the growth potential of this company. Would you agree with that? Would you agree we're still undervalued as far as the share price is concerned?
Yeah, we are a very conservative company. We do everything just the way that we think about everything from finances to capital markets is a thought process that's very conservative. So when we launched on the market, we didn't want to launch with some crazy valuation that we feel is unrealistic. I was fortunate enough to go through the .com boom and build a company during that time, and I saw what was happening on the capital markets just as it's happening right now with cannabis and all these crazy valuations, and it's sure to come down. So we wanted to launch with a very conservative valuation and allow the markets to dictate where the price goes based off of financials being released and so forth. So as we grow and we report our next financials and we talk about the great things that we're able to accomplish, I think that we're going to see very healthy growth while being conservative and not overinflating.
Yeah, I like that. As opposed to some of the more media hyped names in the cannabis space, I get emails pretty much every day asking me. They say, Dave, how can I get into the cannabis space? What are you recommending now? And what I don't recommend is buying the pot stocks that are already very expensive, and we all know the names I'm talking about, where they're already in the headlines. I like under the radar types of opportunities, and I believe that Orchid is in fact one of those. It's a great entry point, not only into the California and the United States market, but also Canada and worldwide. Great way to go. I see a lot of upside myself. So final question, Mr. Mangold, what is next for Orchid Ventures?
Yeah, I mean, what's next, except for expanding into other markets, is product development. We've built a great foundation of a brand, and now we're able to start layering in other products within other product sectors on top of that brand, and even developing more brands. And that's something that we're keenly focused right now, is improving the product spread and getting more shelf space at the retail level to where we have more sell-through. And that will, of course, increase revenue and increase the amount of people that have interactions with the brand. So growing the brand, growing the product spread, and growing geographically, those are the three things that really get us up early in the morning and excited for the workday.
Yeah, and it's pretty exciting. I tell people you could either be an investor or you can be an observer, and you could just watch the price of the cannabis industry, the cannabis market go up and up and up. You could watch the adoption increase. You could watch the revolution happen, or you can be part of it. But you got to get in early if you want the lion's share of the gains. So I view Orchid Ventures Inc. as a great way to get in. Because again, it's not overpriced. In fact, I'd say it's quite undervalued. And this is a company that has huge expansion plans in the works. Great leadership team, and it was a pleasure to learn about this market and this opportunity from you, Mr. Corey Mangold. And I just want to make sure I get it right. The website for more information would be orchidessentials.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, very good. So I recommend people check this out, and I'm still learning myself, so I definitely got a lot of information today from this interview. Mr. Corey Mangold, we're going to have you back for an update one of these days, just to see how big this phenomenon and this revolution will get, and I see big things ahead. So thank you, Corey Mangold. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming to Looking at the Markets.
Thank you for having me, David. Pleasure.